All right, American cops versus British cops. This should be a fun, civil, non-controversial one, right? Now, I actually know a lot about American cops, more than the average American for sure, but I know next to nothing about British cops. All I know is they don't have guns, and they wear those funny little hats. My only exposure to the British police is that Hot Fuzz movie, which is a banger, by the way. But let's watch this, let's learn.
Whatever we might think about the police, one thing that's certain is that we are fascinated by them. As early as the 50s, the police crime drama started filling our TV screens, and long before that,
Why'd they make the infographic lady so thick? What is this pose? Relax, infographics.
Conan Doyle and Edgar Allan Poe planted the seeds for the genre of detective fiction. The good cop, the bad cop, or even the rebel with a cause cop kind of shows in the
one of my favorite movies is actually End of Watch, which is a cop movie with Jake Gyllenhaal. Highly recommend. But yeah, also like just watching Cops, like the TV show Cops, used to do that all the time.
These have evolved into more realistic series such as The Wire, which give us a more nuanced version of police work and those that do it. In real life, dashcam footage from police vehicles has also become a staple in the online content we consume. Today we are going to concentrate on
isn't like the OJ car chase the most watched like video in history, or I guess like live television event in history?
Cops, and perhaps the two most famous, sometimes infamous police forces in the world. In this episode of the infographic show.
All right, drip check. There's the funny hat I was talking about. So the British cops have like kind of like a little suit jacket, not a suit jacket, but you know what I'm saying. All right, interesting, cool. Now I'm biased, but the American hat, it's just too clean. So America's winning so far.
American cops versus British cops. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell button so that you can be part of our notification squad. Prior to what we consider an actual police force, the ancients had many ways to police the polis, or city. Slaves in ancient Greece would handle the rowdy crowds.
The slaves? That's kind of crazy.
Flared, while the Romans might set their Praetorian Guard on out of control.
Could you imagine, dude? Jesus Christ. Like, people are scared of current day cops. Imagine this dude running at you. Oh my God. Look at him.
Rioters. Through the ages, there have been myriad ways to maintain public order, and also some pretty gruesome punishments for those that breach the accepted rules. In the UK, it wasn't
honestly, back in the day, if you stole, they would just like chop off your hands. Which I'm not saying we should bring it back, but I bet you there were less thieves back then.
1749, when a judge named Henry Fielding created what was called the Bow Street Runners, the first time Britain had anything what we can associate with today's police force.
The Bow Street Runners? You're telling me Britain's first police force were called the Bow Street Runners? Why does this sound like the greatest gang name of all time? And I'm sure people in the comments will say like the police are the greatest gang of all time, greatest as in like most evil, etc., etc. I get it, but that's goated. It's kind of like Mormons, like the Latter-day Saints. That's such a good name. So cops and Mormons actually have the two best gang names of all time: Bow Street Runners and the Latter-day Saints.
As British cities grew at a rapid pace under the Industrial Revolution, so did crime. And so on September 29th, 1829, the Metropolitan Police Service was formed in London, and it is said to be the first modern police force ever created.
He might cover this, but if he doesn't, any British people in the comments, let me know. Do you guys have like separate police forces for each city? Or is like the Metropolitan Police like just all over England? Or all over the UK even? Like how does it work? Or are they just in London? Because like, for example, in New York, you have like the NYPD, which focuses on what you would perceive as New York City. But then like Long Island, which is like to the right of New York City, quote unquote, has their own police force, etc., etc.
Behind it, Sir Robert Peel explained why England needed cops. I want to teach people that liberty does not consist in having your house robbed by organized gangs of thieves and in leaving the principal streets of London in the nightly possession of drunken women and vagabonds. Why were they nicknamed Bobbies? Well, after their founder, Robert. As you know, the USA was noted for its Wild West outlaws. One of those was Billy the Kid, who was shot by Sheriff Pat Garrett in 1881. Like Britain, America had ways to control crime, but for a long time...
Dude, honestly, like, for some reason, we weren't really taught anything about the Wild West in school. Like it was just like glossed over briefly. I want to watch some videos on the Wild West. It seems like such an interesting time period, and I straight up know nothing. Like I played Red Dead Redemption. That's my knowledge of the Wild West.
There was no formal police force, and so the job of keeping folks in line often went to private contractors such as the Pinkerton National Detective Agency. Systems including...
I know about the Pinkertons though, and what they're doing in the current day as well.
watchmen, and even what some called goons for hire, weren't workable
I
as
like
the
his
USA
fit.
grew in population.
Looks like
It's
me,
thought that
kinda.
the first American formal police force was created in Boston in 1838,
Boston,
New York
huh?
City followed in 1845, and by the 1880s, just about all American cities had an organized police force. Now that we know something about the history of these two countries' police forces, let's look at the present day. The number of police officers in just England and Wales has decreased significantly in the last decade, which has become a major political issue in the UK. The number in 2016 of officers in the force was 124,066, down from 143,769 7 years before that.
That's let me rewind real quick. Yeah, just wanted to get those numbers back on the screen. That's surprising to me. Because obviously the population is increasing, not decreasing, at least for the world. I assumed for England and Wales as well. So that's surprising. I wonder what it is now. We are 8 years past this. I wonder if it continued to go down or not. If anyone knows, please let me know.
For that. The number of full-time officers working in Scotland in 2016 was 17,242, and the number in Northern Ireland was 6,773. That's a total of 148,081 police officers working all over the United Kingdom. The population of the UK is 65.64 million, so roughly there is one police officer for every 448 people. Much of the British media and the public are saying that is not enough, especially as the crime
Doesn't
rate
sound like
rise
enough.
in the UK is rising faster than it has in a decade. This includes a rise in violent crimes and homicide. Over the pond in the USA, crime rates are much higher, and as some police departments are looking more like military units, the role of police in society has
Yeah, doesn't like America have the highest crime rate out of like first world countries? Like I'm sure like Brazil's higher and whatnot.
with some controversy. Finding the actual number of sworn police officers working in the USA in 2016 isn't that easy. This is because figures given by the US Bureau of Justice Statistics haven't been updated in a few years. The total number of police agencies in the US is around 18,000, but that includes all branches of police. If we take just local police departments, that number is more like 15,500, according to PolitiFact. The old data that is often cited says that in 2008, there were 765,000 officers that had the power to make an arrest. The US Department of Justice gives the number of 750,340 for 2012. According to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund, that number has shot up and is presently about 900,000.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm almost certain it's a million. Like at this point, 2024, I'm almost certain there's at least a million cops. Like the NYPD alone is like massive. There's more NYPD members than like a lot of nations' armies. That's a stat that I see thrown around a lot.
Population is 323.1 million, so that means that roughly there is one cop for every 359 people. One of the major differences is that in the USA, police carry guns, as do 36% of American households, according to the Washington Post. It's reported that in 2016, 135 police officers died in the line of duty, with around half of those that died being fatally shot. The Guardian reports that the number of officers killed in the line of duty in the UK is a total of 11 since 2010, although many officers are assaulted in the UK. In 2015, it was reported that 23,000 assaults occurred against officers in just England and Wales. In 2017, the Police Federation of England and Wales reported this figure to be not even close to the real number. It said there were 2.4 million assaults in 2016, meaning an officer was attacked every 13 seconds that year. 300,000 of them involved attacks with deadly weapons. The report said the average police officer is assaulted 19 times a year. On the other hand, in the USA in 2016, police...
I wonder what their definition of assault is. Like if someone like resists arrest, is that assault? That's still a lot. Like 19. Like think about like once a month, you know that you're gonna have to like fight someone, essentially defend yourself from someone.
Officers killed a total of 1,093 people.
This is a crazy graphic, dude. This is actually crazy. I do wonder how many people that British cops killed though.
Inquest.org, in the UK in 2016, a total of 5 people were shot and killed by police. The total...
Damn. Only 5? America's kind of crazy, huh?
Number of people shot and killed in the UK since 1990 is 67. We should add
What?
here that regular...
They're saying shot and killed? Are they like not accounting for... Well, I guess the cops don't stab people, right? Never mind. I was going to say, are they not counting the shanks? The British criminals are the ones who nank people, excuse me.
In the UK don't carry guns, but armed police can be called when it's thought guns are needed. Police in Northern Ireland are different, routinely carrying firearms. According to the newspaper The Mirror, in 2016 there were 1,863,524 legally owned guns in Wales and England.
I had no idea. I'm legit shocked by this number. Like I was legit thinking like under 10,000, not counting like the military, which I guess they are. They have to be, right? That's too much if they're not.
which were shotguns. It's thought there are another 277,000 guns in Scotland and a further 150,000 legally owned guns in Northern Ireland. The same newspaper said there were another 2 million illegally owned guns on the UK streets, which has raised the question if UK police should be given firearms.
That is insane. 2 million illegally owned in the UK. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs of gun control in America, but I will say in New York, there's supposed to be no guns, not illegal, at least in the city, for the most part. But there's a lot of shootings, a lot of illegal shootings. So, yikes.
Murder rate per capita in the US is still 30 times higher than in the UK, which might not be surprising considering there are more guns than people in the country, according to the Washington Post. As for assaults on officers, there were 51,548 assaults against US police officers in 2015, with a total of 14,453 injuries sustained. With this in mind, how does life on the job compare between the two forces, and how do you even get a job as a police officer? In the UK, you can join when you are 18. There are no restrictions on height, but the force does ask you to be in good enough physical and mental shape to undertake police duties.
That's interesting. In America, there's no height requirement either, and there is no physical health requirement once you're on. I wonder if that's the same in England. I don't know, but in America, I'm sure you've seen the memes of fat cops. Like on The Simpsons, there's Barney, the fat cop. Is it Barney or is that the drunk guy? Anyway, you get what I'm saying. Cops in America, they're often memed on for being fat. That's because when they get hired, they need to pass the physical test, which isn't that crazy at all. I think the average person can do it. Even if you're slightly overweight, you'd still be able to pass the average physical for a cop. But once you're on, that's it. You never get retested. In most police agencies, there might be some that do have you get retested, but in most, once you're in, you're in. That's it.
No formal qualifications are required, but you will need to pass some tests to get in. Pass them, and you are in, just as long as you haven't committed any serious offenses in the past. It's similar in the US, although the police force does usually ask for a high school diploma, and that you are either 18 or 21, depending on the department.
A lot of agencies don't require you to go to college to get on, but in order to become a sergeant or a lieutenant, etc., they would want an associate's degree. Then when you're becoming a captain, perhaps a bachelor's degree. Things like that. At least for the NYPD. That's where most of my knowledge would come from. I'm not sure about all the other agencies, but I think it's similar along the way. Maybe the southern agencies or the real rural agencies, probably just a diploma and nothing else.
You'll have to train at a police academy and have either a clean criminal record or have only committed minor offenses. There is no minimum or maximum height or weight limit, but in the academy you'll have to pass certain physical agility tests. Nowhere does it state you have to enjoy eating donuts. Wages vary, but in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, you can expect to start your career as a police constable on anything from $25,000 to
Let me just check when this was made real quick, because I want to equate to 6 years ago. Okay, so 2018. All right, that's real low, by the way. Shockingly low.
$30,000.
I think European wages overall are just lower in general. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong on that, but I think that is the case. But that's absurd, dude. 22K as a cop. I know it's euros, or pounds, excuse me.
If you work hard, UK career websites say that within about 7 years, that wage can be $48,872 US.
That is terrible. Oh my God. Let me just rewind so that's clear for you. So after 7 years, you'll get 37. Let me just use USD because I'm more familiar with that. So you start at 30K. I'll go with the high end. Then after 7 years, you get 48K. Now, for reference, in 2018, I'll use the NYPD for an example. I think you started around around 50K, 48K. And then after 5.5 years, you would get 95K. Which isn't equating for all the overtime and all that type of stuff. So that's just insane. It's almost double what these dudes get. And now in the current day, 2024, NYPD cops get $122,000 after 5.5 years. So, and I know some people will say that doesn't go very far in New York, but if you're not in Manhattan, it goes far enough. It goes far enough, especially when you account for all the overtime they get. There's this whole overtime ring that the cops engage in, and it's come up in the news. People are saying our tax dollars shouldn't go for this because they're saying a lot of the cops essentially commit overtime fraud, where they're just working, doing nothing per se. They're on the job, but they're not doing anything, just clocking.
You should work a 40-hour week, although police work can often mean overtime and also emergency callouts.
Here's
You'll
the
get
overtime I was
23
talking
days
about.
annual leave and also full sick pay. The pension varies depending on time worked, but the average police pension in the UK is thought to be around $20,465 a year, and the normal retirement age is 60. In the US, salaries differ from state to state, but a rookie cop working in the NYPD can expect to earn
There you go. He used the NYPD. I guess that's like the most famous one, so it's who you would use as an example. Let's see if my numbers were right.
$46,288 per year.
So far, I am.
After 5.5 years, this could rise to
Yeah.
$90,000.
There you go. I was 5K off, but there you go. See, I know what I'm talking about, and I had to like backtrack 4 years. I got it. 6 years even.
$829 if you have done well. Other states have average wages closer to $30,000, and others $70,000, according to career website Crom.
Yeah, and like just for the record, like the NYPD is not the highest paying. Just for the record, like Beverly Hills PD pays a lot. Even in New York, the NYPD isn't the highest paying agency. Like there's Long Island off to the right, and they get, I think they get like 146K after 5 years, and it's like obviously less dangerous than the city.
You'll get 10 days paid vacation to start with, but after 5 years it will increase to 27 days. You'll also receive unlimited fully paid sick days, medical benefits, dental benefits, and optional retirement after 22 years on the force. Like the UK, you will work around 40 hours a week in shifts, but that might change with overtime. How much pension you receive can be affected by multiple factors, but various websites put the average police pension anywhere from $58,000 to $62,000.
And as I was touching on previously with the overtime, the way the pension is recorded, I guess, I don't know if that's the right word, but the way the pension is figured out is your last like 5 years, I think, or maybe just 2 years, something like that, maybe just 2 years. So your last 2 years on the job, and so when the cops know they're going to retire, they work a ton of overtime in the last 2 years, so their pension is like artificially inflated in a way. And a lot of people were very upset at the New York cops doing this. It was like this whole issue. But speaking of pensions in general, a cop is one of the few jobs in America that will still give a pension. I think firefighters give a pension too. Maybe teachers. It's usually like government jobs. But if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, in England, or maybe just like the UK as a whole, I don't know, pensions are pretty common, right? Like even on normal jobs. Is that true? It's what I've heard.
With money in mind, we'll end the show there. Where would you rather be a cop,
there
the
you
UK
go.
or the US? Let us know in the
I
comments.
would rather
Also,
be
sure
a
to
cop nowhere, but if I had to choose, gun to my head, I'm gonna pick UK because the money is not worth it if you're getting assaulted and just like hated by the general public. I feel like, actually, do UK cops receive as much hate as the American cops? I feel like they don't, but that was informative. That was a fun video. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. Hopefully you learned something.